Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to actually use Dronelink's on-the-fly functions that were described in the previous video. I'm going to do this from within Dronelink's native app, and I'm going to start by doing an orbit, and then I'm going to do something that's typically called a cardinal shot, where you take 8 or even 4 or 16 shots around a single location. In a later video I'll show you some of the other on-the-fly functions, as well as how to edit this on-the-fly mission from within the web UI of Dronelink itself. Now, to start, you need to be in the native app, not the web app, and you need to have your drone connected to your controller and your iPad or iPhone connected to your controller as well. Now, I'm going to go into one of my accounts, and then I'm going to move from the left tab where the plans are into the right side where it says on the fly. I'm then going to scroll down and find the orbit on the fly function. Now my drone is on the ground, so I need to fly to the center of the orbit, which is what I'm going to do now. Now my advice is to point the gimbal straight down and then fly over where you want to orbit, in this case this pool clubhouse. Now, I didn't do it in this video when I was recording it, but I also recommend turning on the grid function. That will help you find the center even more accurately. Now, I want to get right over the center of the location, and then once I'm there, I'm going to click on the mark button on my iPad, and then I'm going to mark that location and hit next. Now, the next thing it wants me to do is to fly to the outer point of somewhere on the orbit. This is also going to be where the orbit starts, as well as set the altitude that the orbit is going to be done at. And I'm going to mark that location. Then hit next. And then the third step is you're going to need to tell Dronelink whether you're taking interval images or whether you're taking video. I typically use video when I'm doing orbits, and if I'm taking images I'm using the cardinal function, but it's your call. And hit next. Now at this point you're going to be asked if you want to set any of the advanced settings. If you say no, it basically jumps forward and gets you ready to fly. If you say yes, it's going to show you some of the advanced settings that you can set. First of all, you can define the speed that you want to do the orbit. I typically bump this up a little bit. Then you're going to want to set the direction, whether you want it to be clockwise or counterclockwise. You can select the number of rotations that the orbit will do. I usually default it to 1. By default, when you do an orbit, the camera is going to look at the ground level of the center of the orbit. However, particularly if you're doing missions for companies like DroneBase, where you need to have the horizon in view, or if you want to have it looking at a higher point as you're orbiting around, you want to set the pitch of the drone or the gimbal so that it's looking in the right direction. The best way to do this is to set this when you've got when you move the drone out to the outer point, set the camera to where you want it to look, and then when you get to this point, have it set to current pitch instead of center, and Dronelink will set the path when you click on the generate button. That's the key thing. It actually generates the path and the pitch of the drone based upon where the camera is looking when you click on the generate button. Finally, I'm going to name the mission. I call this Orbit of Clubhouse, and it's going to ask me to generate the mission. Once I tap on generate the mission is created and the mission is ready to fly. It's basically the equivalent of having a mission created that you did from the web UI, and you can see the mission that it created from within the native app. When you're ready, press the play button in the upper left-hand corner, and it will count down and you'll be off and running. Dronelink will fly to the edge of the circle, turn on video, fly the orbit, and stop. Now I'm going to show another on-the-fly function called Cardinal Photos, which works very similar to Orbit, where it takes images at north, east, southwest, or north, northeast, east, southeast, etc., facing toward the building of the location. Again, this is very common if you're working with companies like DroneBase, and it works very similar to Orbit. You're going to, again, be in the native app, and you're going to select the on-the-fly function, and you're going to select Cardinal Photos, and it will load that. Then with your drone, you're either going to take off or you're going to fly to the center of the building or the location and point the camera down to make sure you're at the center of that location, and then mark that location and tap next. Now you're going to fly to a location on the edge of the orbit. I ideally recommend flying to the northern point of the mission, as it'll build the mission based upon that first location. And a few other hints. This location is the radius of the orbit that you'll be doing. It's also the altitude. And I also typically tilt the gimbal so that I have the horizon in view. If I need to back far enough away, I do that. I usually have the intention of tilting the camera based upon the pitch of the gimbal, not looking at the center of the orbit. So I typically have to go into the advanced settings. So I tap on next, and I say yes to the advanced settings. I usually shoot 8 images. That's typical, but you can do 4. You can actually bump it up to 16, but let's keep it on 8. Now I want the camera to be pitched at the angle that I had set it when I flew out there, not to the center of the orbit. So I am going to use that option. And then I'm going to name the mission and generate it. And now you can actually see the mission that it created. And once you're ready, you hit the play button, the mission will run. Now, if you've done missions like this in the past, you've probably used an orbit function of DJI Go or Dronelink and taken images as it flies around to the various points within the orbit. Dronelink's on-the-fly function for Cardinal images actually flies straight to the location, turns toward the center, takes the image, and then turns back and flies to each location. In the end, you'll have the 8 images you want taken. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to edit these missions from within the Dronelink UI itself.